Okay, good morning. This is Ron. Sunday morning, a little after 11 a.m. So we'll go ahead and get started. See if we have any questions on where we talked yesterday. Uh, I had the feeling that we may not have been through talking about the storm. In fact, I had two observations that came to me that I thought were very important. Uh, there were two expressions made that really caught my eye. One is when Barb talked about y- y- things that are happening in other parts of the world, and this gets our attention, but it it uh it also wakes us up to other things that are going on out there, and it made me think about the ripple effect and the vibrations and the energy that we are able to feel from others if we are in a sensitive enough place. Uh, it also made me think about something we talked about when we talked about the Kavalon mother sitting on the throne, and what is mothering and what does that mean? What is sitting on the throne, and how does that relate to everything we're talking about here? Uh, and the other expression was when George talked about GC talked about uh, outside watering his plants and him taking a notice of the sun and feeling the vibration of what was happening uh, allowing that to be a part of him or those kind of things are what we're talking about. So I wanted to revisit that and talk about it a little bit if we can, and see if there's anyone else that wanna express themselves or talk about the storm or anything uh, related to that. Anybody?
Good morning,
Nobody?
family. This is Barbara. Um, I just had an observation. I'm sorry, it may take us a little bit away from what you just asked, but then
Uh-huh.
everything ties in anyway. And I was thinking about all these quote unquote October surprises uh, that politically people talk about. Well, we've had a lot of things that happened in the month of October, so to speak, last of September, October, from things like um, the new legal briefs being filed against the ex-president. We've had hurricane after hurricane, but more specifically, the disaster that Helene caused. We've had an expansion of the war from Gaza from one country into another country, which makes it look sort of international in a sense because it's between
Mhm.
nations now. We've had, wow, I was thinking that we've had the strike, major strike, which was aborted after a couple of days. Uh, we've had lots of big and big things happen uh, that could have that could end up being something much more disastrous. But if you look at how some of those things have evolved and what has happened, the strike has been aborted. The war is still ongoing. Um, the hurricane did what it did, and there are more. It's like a train it's like a train, and there's another
Yeah.
car coming. So it's just so much that's happened all at once in this little bit of time. So I was thinking about it as it relates to you. I was thinking about labor pains that the mother usually has before a child is born, and they're usually one right after the other. Um, so that's the context in which I thought about what you just said. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I agree with you. You know, don't have an answer for any of that. Anything you said or anything I've seen in the news. You know, the war expanding, as you said, and the hurricanes and them talking about the latest one may take the same path. You know, we are made aware of these things, and the connection is I see it as allowing us to become aware of who we really are. And what I mean by that is we have an understanding of who we are, but the action portion of it is being activated. It's almost like we're being forced out of the upper room, and we are participants and have been participants all along, and now we see it. We see it because we're right in the middle of it. But yeah, and it is an awesome time for all the wisdom to come together and talk these things out. Yeah. Anyone else?
I
Okay.
think this is Barbara again. I think the beauty of all of this, if you can see beauty in addition to what's going on, is that all of these things are in the consciousness of humanity, not just in one person's consciousness. It's not just in the
Yeah.
cosmic mother's consciousness. It's as if the cosmic mother wants to birth what you just said, knowledge of self, knowledge of the true self in every
Yeah.
single human being. And it almost transcends what we usually think of as birthing only by the female, which is true. But in a sense, this is a birthing by humankind of that consciousness of divinity that it is. And not only that, the responsibility incurred in that consciousness, meaning I can't be selfish. I can't be killing like this. I can't be telling lies like this. I'm a new birth. I'm a new creature. My slate is clean. I come into the new quote unquote world, um, um, just waiting to become who I truly am, rather
Yeah.
than having all this baggage of what we've been dealing with.
Yeah. Very well said. Anyone else? Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. Good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone. This is GC in Philly, and
Hey,
I
G.
just want to, say, to our family, that yesterday I had a conversation, you know, um, and it really made me think about, the storm. It made me just think about what we all, grow through in terms of our experiences. And what really impacted on my spirit is that, here in, Philadelphia, we see, the devastation in terms of Helena, with regards to the storm. We see it on TV. But I think yesterday in
Mhm.
speaking, with some of our family, you know, down south, and to hear and to feel what you're growing through really touched my spirit, because you can look at things with your eyes, but to see and to hear and to feel what you're growing through, my meditations and prayers are there. And at the same time, I appreciate having a conversation with you in terms of how you're coming together as a community, coming together in terms of the oneness of who we are, sharing that loving kindness and passion, and just the desire to rebuild. And so what does it all mean? And as I was sharing with, Ron, in terms of me planting or watering the flowers this past week, specifically on Friday, it just resonated with me that there is that truth in terms of being able to understand the real and the unreal. And what do I mean by that? In terms of the greatest goodness, the greatest goodness in us, that even during these times of adversity, during these times of whatever we're growing through, to see the cosmic mother, doing what she does with the support of the masculinity, or I would just say Tahuti, which represents that wisdom of the masculine, and Mayat in terms of the mother, the feminine energy. And so I'm just, again, I'm lost at words, but I truly am thankful for those, who are able to endure what you're growing through, but more importantly, realizing that, all living creatures are sacred. And there's, that aspect of respect and honor that we have to have for one another. And I just want to, again, just say, my heart and my thoughts are with you. And again, whatever, we can do, or whatever I can do, up north. But again, pictures don't even resonate with me now in terms of what I'm feeling. And please know that, our prayers and our thoughts are with you all in terms of what you experience. So Ron, thank you for letting me share that truth, because I think this is helping us to truly appreciate our morals and values that guides our thoughts and behaviors. And I think it comes back to the truth, of what we're discussing. So again, thank you for letting me share those thoughts, sir. I'm sorry for being long-winded, but I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you. I'm done.
No apologies needed, my brother. Appreciate your energy. Appreciate what you're sharing, your thoughts and feelings. You and Barb touched on something. I'm sorry. Is there anybody else? I was going to say something different, but is there anybody else that want to follow up? I'm listening to you guys, and I had a thought. I remember when we were in our old building downtown, and one of the most beautiful things I remember in those sessions is watching the young mothers, right? You're sitting there, and to hear a baby cry. A baby cries in the back, and not everybody gets up. You see one mother get up. Why? She feels the vibration. She doesn't have to sit there and say, "That's my child." That vibration was felt in the womb. She knows that because that is her crying. That is her crying, and she feels that. And she gets up, and all the other mothers sit there because they know, they too feel the pain. The utterance of that cry is felt by everybody in the room, but especially the mothers. And that starts long before birth. So when Barb and George mentioned it, what is the cosmic mother? We talked about Kamala Harris, but can you be a cosmic mother? Are you a part of this process in that regard? what do you feel? What is sensitive to us? What do we allow to expand our womb as we become aware of ourselves? So all this stuff that is unfolding that we are part of creating, how do you feel? Do you accept the role of being a cosmic mother? Or does that even apply to you?
Aaron,
Yes.
good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I feel like we need to revamp our understanding of motherhood, because when we talk about motherhood, we see an individual woman who had a child or one who is functioning in the role of mother, whether they gave birth or not. However, when we talk about motherhood from the Kemetic concept, we're talking about in the spiritual, one mother. In the physical world, we're still talking about one mother. What I mean by one mother in the physical world is that when we grew up, everyone in the neighborhood was a mother to us, whether it was correcting us or whether it was embracing us. In the sense of the spiritual, feminine energy itself, the feminine energy of Kemet is our motherhood. And that transcends biological birth. And the idea of Kamala or Michelle being a cosmic mother is actually a reflection of the entire motherhood of the cosmic mother. They are part of that, no differently than we have different aspects to our personality. There are different aspects to the cosmic mother and what they bring to the organized community. Yet the foundation of the cosmic mother is the same: nurturing, compassion, etc. And that is the reason that there are aspects of this motherhood that is reflective through masculinity as well. However, masculinity is simply a complement to the nurturing and to the birth or unfolding of the passion of motherhood. Therefore, whether you accept it or not, you are representative by virtue of your physical attributes of femininity, of feminine energy. Therefore, you are a cosmic mother, whether you embrace it or not. You can choose not to embrace it, or you don't embrace it because you're unaware of it, or you do embrace it because you are indeed aware of it. So, but that is up to the individual as to whether or not they're going to continue to be a part of the whole or the whole. So I think our thoughts about motherhood and the mother are quite different than what we grew up to believe it was about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let that sink in for just a second. We throw around and we use a lot of terms and you don't connect to them, you experience them, and that's where we are. We're experiencing things, and that's just bringing us into awareness of who we are. What Pastor just said. Go ahead, Pastor.
The sanctity of it all is what I want to add to that. If you're taking care of your mom because she is incapable of doing things for herself, then you're a mother to her, or you are a father to her. because um, that's what the circumstances demand at that moment. So we lost our affinity for this idea of femininity, and we over exaggerated our idea of masculinity, taken totally out of context from what it was intended to be. Um, when we were in a simpler time with lesser means of communication and even lesser means of material property, we were more in tune with this true sense of what motherhood is about. We had a greater sense of pride and respect in for those who uh, are representative of this feminine aspect of the universe. Yet, but now we have grown to the place where we seem to have lost quite a bit of that. And if we were to do the research on that, statistical or otherwise, what we will find out is um, when there was an increase of us being educated beyond high school, that is when we begun to um, lose our sense of community as well as our sense of respect for motherhood and for fatherhood for that matter. We began to lose a sense of that. And that was not so much due to um, our desire to lose it as it was a desire to fit in into a society that was never created for us to fit into. This whole idea of disrespect rather, was brought into our psyche through well, on purpose, through the training that we received and a training that we called education. The more we began to acquire materially, the less respect we had for each other and the less sense of community we had as well. We started um, being more and more entrenched in a desire to assimilate into a society that never was, not only was not created for us, but it never wanted us in that society. And during our assimilation, we became more entrenched in being European than the Europeans were. I'm done.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, to the group, to anyone that can answer the question, earlier this week, a friend of mine called me up and he said, George, have you seen any Mexicans or Puerto Ricans looking for gas? I'm like, nah, I don't come to think. I hadn't seen that. I just seen blacks and whites. And he said, man, it got to be something spiritual in there. And just off the top of my head, all I could come up with is in the Puerto Rican culture and the Mexican culture, it's a strong degree of femininity. And wherever there's a strong degree of femininity, the respect of it, the appreciation of it, you have a small amount of chaos. Females who are in management that understand the strength and power of femininity, they really know how to get a lot out of their people that they're governing. Women who understand the strength of femininity, they know how to get the most out of their husband, out of the family. And this is not opinionated. This is just my experience. People who understand the strength of femininity do far better in maneuvering in feminine energy than people who just discuss feminine energy. There's a big difference and this is just my experience. And if yours is different, I respect that. The people who understand femininity, these are your independent thinkers. People who maneuver in feminine energy and don't understand the significance of femininity. And in conclusion, I'll say this. When my culture stated they didn't need no man, look what happened to us. Brothers stop acknowledging brothers. We used to have something out here called a slap and dap. Hey, what's the word? Thunderbird. What's that price? 30 twice. When my culture stated that you don't need no man, we bought more into dressing our outside instead of our inside. We bought more into being independent. I did this. And when our culture said that, marriage is inclusive of everything now. No one, ain't nothing but a few heads out here can talk about the sacredness of marriage from an exclusive standpoint. The majority people out here, they talk about marriage from an inclusive. You got to have a spouse, a spouse at your job. You got to have a side piece. You got to have a platonic relationship. All because, my opinion, because my culture said we didn't need no man. Thank you very much.
May I respond to that unless someone else is?
Go ahead, Pastor, please.
First of all, I think if you will allow me, George, the word understanding femininity, what I was hearing is more of those who respect femininity. Because you can respect something without having a clear understanding of it. You respect it because it resonates with you, but you can't necessarily regurgitate what you're experiencing from it. Does that make sense to you, Mr. George?
Yes, Mr. James, that makes sense to me, Mr. James.
Thank you, sir. The other part of that is, if you look at what happened, this whole idea of I don't need a man grew out of the back end of the civil rights movement. During the course of the civil rights movement, there was a religious respect for females in that they were expected to be the secretaries as opposed to being primary contributors to the movement itself in terms of logistics. And then there came people like Fannie Lou Hamer, who became the voice of the African female during this time period. However, in later years of the civil rights movement, what happened, those organizations like Black Man's Liberation Army, Black Panther Party, African Liberation Front, Congress of African People, all of these began to grow out of the civil rights movement. And during that period, especially in the Panther Party, women were given a backseat in that they could talk to their man about things, but they could not speak up in a meeting with men about things, about how things should be done. Only thing they were relegated to being secretaries, more or less. And their offering of ideas was not as accepted as it should have been. And that morphed into an independence of that females began to develop. And that independence came not so much because they desired it to be, as much as it came because African males were treating them like they were pleasure pieces, as opposed to treating them as though they are the mothers of us all. They began to treat the female like they were less than. And as a result of that, the females began to see that in order for them to hold on to their identity, they were going to have to be separate and unto themselves, because the overwhelming majority of men, especially African men, were domineering in a way that they had never been before. Um, so I know that there are those who look at this differently. However, that's okay with me. Yet I do see that that this is on the shoulders of the disrespect and the disdain that females received from men. So it is, if you are talking about this culminating into the lack of understanding of femininity, I think it actually is a lack of respect of femininity and the desire to dominate it rather than to complement it. Thank you. Unless there are questions or comments, please. Does that make sense, guys? Ask me questions.
Well, Reb, I appreciate your answer, and I really asked that question so I could have an answer or some kind of answer in case someone asked the question that I said, and I got something I can pull off of. Because all this week driving this truck, that's one of the questions I said to myself. I said, George, you got to have a rebuttal on this. And I should have told y'all that, but yet it is what it is. Yet, Reb, I do stand on the platform until someone has been going to change me or an experience will change me. Femininity has always looked out for me. Femininity says, hey, George, you can have personality. You can be loud. You can't be aggressive, but you can be loud. The advocates of feminine energy can't be loud. You can't have no personality, and it ain't all people. It's just femininity has always looked out for me. And when I say femininity, I am saying from a female's perspective and males who understand femininity. And that could be a little civil war between us that we may need to address or sweep it up under the rug. Because I feel femininity is what the world responds to. That's just me. And maybe we don't know the strength in femininity. In conclusion, I'm going to see my chiropractor. And she's a Puerto Rican female. I like her femininity. When I walk up in there, hey, George, where all did you travel this week? Did you have safe travels? How does Asheville look? Hey, how she communicates to me, her degree of femininity. And in her femininity, I see how she maneuvers in feminine energy. Thank y'all.
That's her personality.
I make a comment. This is Audrey. I'm kind of confused about what George was saying about Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, femininity. Anyway, but from what I know of Mexicans.
What I meant by that, to clarify that, was I stated that whenever there's a strong degree of femininity in a nucleus, the less chaos that you're going to see. For anyone that was searching for gas in Spartanburg, Ron, did you have to look for gas in Spartanburg? Did you see a Mexican or a Puerto Rican out there?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, when we understand a little thing about femininity, the less chaos you see. A strong degree of femininity in the family, the more you see the family work with one another. In the workplace, like I say, one of the things my coworker and I talk about, these females who are in positions of authority, they making a high degree of money, they're not operating in their femininity and they're being very abusive. Then we talk about the male. He's operating in a good sense of working with one another, yet he's being taken advantage of. So that thing about the Puerto Rican and Mexican, for all y'all in Spartanburg that was looking for gas, all in the grocery stores, did you see any Mexicans or Puerto Ricans out there? That's all I'm saying. You didn't see any out there because they got their stuff together. Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say that just living here among Mexicans, they are highly, highly, highly conservative. And women run the home, but they are very much under the, well, I won't say under the control, but but they have a certain place in society, and that's where they're expected to be. And I think all of that is based on their intrinsic indoctrination from the Catholic Church. Women have a very definite place in society, and they're not expected to move out of that box. So they're kind of in the same place as Pastor was just describing in the civil rights movement. Women learn to be independent based on how they were treated. Anyway, they play their role in society, and they're not allowed to move out of that box. That's just my point. So when, in terms of femininity, it's a femininity that's been cloistered and suppressed and oppressed, in my opinion. Thank you.
Audrey, I don't think that's an opinion. That's a reality. And that is what you have described about the Mexicans within the confines of your environment, your current environment. Those are the same descriptions that fit the communities of Hispanics in this country as well. They didn't leave that at the border. It's the same thing. And as far as seeing them looking for gas, very rarely you see Hispanics anyway, unless they're at the service station getting gas to go to work, and lawn services and construction. Most Hispanics, especially in southern places, do not go out until late evening or at night because they don't want to be harassed by white supremacists. They don't want to suffer the indignities that they face, that we, based on a large, that we face when we were growing up, every day and every night. So I see that you probably would not see them. I understand rather that you probably would not see them searching for gas while everyone else is out. Even at Walmart, most Hispanics shop at night at Walmart because they don't want to have those negative interactions. And as to the idea of the world responding to femininity, and you expressing that in terms of Hispanics, keep in mind that whether you call them whether they are Puerto Ricans or whether they are Mexicans. For the most part, they are people of color in terms of being of African descent. What am I saying? I'm saying that when you look at Puerto Ricans, you will find that the Puerto Ricans who have fairer skin are actually mostly descendants of Spanish, of the Spanish Europeans, as well as the Mexicans. When you see the taller Mexicans, they're the descendants of Europeans. The statue dictates a lot about the originality of the people in the area. Incas are different in stature than the Spaniards are. So what I don't do, at the very least, I try my best not to do, is to make distinctions between Africans, whether they are in Mexico or whether they are on the continent of Africa or in South Carolina, because the dispositions are the same. And when we talk about the cosmic mother, the femininity of it, we are talking about the feminine energy of the African of the African. We're talking about the femininity of a Capelan. We're not talking about the femininity of an American African woman. We're talking about pure Africans, period. Why is it? Well, let me back up a moment, please, if I may indulge me for a couple of minutes. There were Italians, and there were Englishmen, and there were the French and Germans until the mid-century, until the middle of the 17th century. White people didn't come into existence until the middle of the 17th century. And I don't mean physical existence, I'm talking about conceptually. It did not become a social construct until mid of the 16th century. It became a social construct for the justification of enslavement and the barbaric treatment of people of color. Prior to that, you had Africans, whether they were in England or whether they were in Australia, they were Africans. You had the English and the Germans. They did not group themselves as white people. Their identity was based upon the country of their origin, as opposed to Europe as a whole. So when we talk about it now, what do we hear? We hear white people still connecting themselves to their country of origin, their identity. I'm Italian American, or I am French American. That's how they identify themselves. Yet they have a foundational base. If we say that we are Americans, this is not our country of origin. Our nation, our landmass of origin is Africa, and that is the reason I reference us so much. So the energies are the same, and the reason the energies are the same is because the cultural environments that we grew up in are the same. We talk about how different we are than our counterparts on the African continent. But there's not a lot of difference in us unless we're trying to be more American than Americans, unless we're trying to be more European than European. Our thought processes when it comes to interaction with humanity are basically the same. Yet we must understand that when we are talking about the overarching power and influence of femininity, we are talking about the mother of everything and of all of us in this earth. And that femininity, that womb, is African in origin, regardless of where we come from. That is the beginning of all of it. And this whole idea about the attitude of a woman shifted because she makes more money, that is not necessarily it. Because I've had interactions with several women who were in corporate America, and they were married to men who were not. And the men who were not, who they were married to, felt some kind of way because they made more money than they did. And that's all because this society of European mindsets have convinced us that the one who makes the money is in control. And that is just as dumb as nails to believe that you can control, supposed to control someone because you make the most money. That's stupid. That's ignorant. That's dumb. That's all the negative things I can think of because it is a negative force in our society. So it is not so much that the woman takes advantage of a man who does not make as money as she does, or because she's in corporate America and he's not, is that the man feels some kind of way about it because he's been trained to feel that way by those who he try to emulate, and that's European man. I'm done, I think, for now anyway. Oh, by the way, women have been forced to be independent. And I would rather, I'd rather my daughters to be independent than to have to live under the thumb of a man who thinks that he's supposed to control her because he makes more money, or because he or manipulate her because he throws a pity party because she makes more money than he does. Divorce his butt, leave him by himself. That's my remedy. I'm done.
Well, Rev, and to the rest of y'all, I still stand on the platform of whenever you see black folks working together, laughing with one another, feeling each other's pain, celebrating each other's success, I'm saying it's behind a strong degree of femininity. Stand on it. Whenever you see it's chaotic, ain't no degree of femininity in it. Thank you.
Nobody denying that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's why we got chaos that we live in right now. That's why we live in a society that's chaotic, because of masculinity. I'm done. Ron, you have it. I'm done.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay.
I have a comment. I'm sorry.
No, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, family. This is Evelyn. I was listening to something on TikTok, and this guy from the UK, he said his mom told him, if you are ever in trouble, find a black woman. A black woman will take care of you. So I just wanted to put that out there because the African female reigns supreme. And we are loyal, and I'm saying it collectively. We are nurturers, and to me, that says volume. That speaks volume. That if you're in trouble, you find a black woman. We take care of you. That's who we are. So to me, that spoke volumes to me. Someone outside, not outside, but you know what I mean, somebody from the UK, a male, to say that about me, us, I appreciated that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, I'm hungry. Which one of y'all black women gonna feed me? I'm in trouble.
Neither one.
All righty. And anyone else? Okay. Anything else to grab your attention? You don't have to talk about continue what we've do you have any other questions about any subject? Okay.
What about this hurricane that's coming, that's forming in the Gulf right now?
That's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
It's going to hit Florida. And the last on it that I saw this morning was it's intensifying. And it's going to pretty much engulf the whole state of Florida and move out to sea. Our experiences have said to us, or shown us rather, what it feels like to experience a hurricane. not in its full force, but a hurricane nonetheless. It gives us a different respect for those who have to endure this hurricane after hurricane, year after year. We talked yesterday, I think it was yesterday, yeah, about being able to, whether or not we should turn the storm. And I think most of us were told and understand is there are times when we are not to make any efforts to do that. We are to let it be what it is, so we're not to feel guilty when we did not do that. If you are someone who have experienced the joy of bringing healing to someone from a physical ailment, and then you can't do it again for some people, you ask yourself why. Well, the answer the answer is the Creator's not telling you to do it, or you're not being led to do that. Yet you try to do it anyway, then you get upset with the Creator, upset with yourself, and feel guilty about it because you could not accomplish it. There are some things the Creator allowed to happen, and they are horrific, but they do happen. And I believe that the nature of them is no different than the nature of a stillborn baby. It's horrific for that to happen. It's heartbreaking. It tears your heart apart. Yet at the same time, it gives you a sense of compassion. It gives you a sense of empathy. It gives you a sense of caring for humanity. And when things like this happen, the same things occur. Where is your humanity? It brings loving kindness into the environment. And that loving kindness that it brings into the environment, that compassion that it brings into the environment, that empathy is not just with you. It is put in the macro just like your words are. The energy of it is. And the pain that we are experiencing for those who have gone through and still are going through the remnants of this hurricane, this energy is permeating the atmosphere, is in the macro. And this energy of empathy that's in the macro does not only pertain to the empathy for simply relegated to hurricanes or weather events. This empathy covers everything. So what I'm saying is this: when you embrace empathy or compassion for those who are going through the remnants of this hurricane, the aftermath of this hurricane, that same empathy is assigned to those who are in pain in other ways, whether it be drug addiction or whether it be hatred. That same empathy, energy of empathy, covers that as well, and it shows us what kind what's in us, and shows us where our focus is and where our priorities are. So with this storm that's going across in Florida, our response to it should be no different than our response was and is to the hurricane that we went through a few days ago. It should not be any different. Does that make sense, Audrey?
Well, that other storm, I didn't feel like I needed to do anything. And this one, I'm not so sure about. I don't know. I'm having a little bit different feeling in terms of like those people just need a break.
Yes. But Audrey, people do need a break. And when you say that, um, they need a break, but we also need a break from everything else that's a hurricane in our lives. So we need a break from it all. Yet, if it were not for the hurricanes in our lives or the hurricane in terms of the storm itself, we would not even recognize that the undercurrents are the source of chaos, and the chaos is being hidden from us, but yet and still it's affecting us. So there are times when everything has to be brought to the surface, not just a hurricane, but as in the political hurricane that we're in the midst of now. It's always been there, but now it's being brought to the surface so we can deal with it. I think also that the earth is responding to the abuse that it has encountered. I also believe that the ancestral spirits of the African is responding to the abuse that we have experienced throughout the centuries. And now everything is coming to a head, just like everything else in this country is coming to a head. And the reason maybe because that we don't feel that urgency as we felt in the past to do something about it is because we're not supposed to. The universe is handling it the same way the universe is handling this political climate that we live in. Because if you look at the political climate on the surface, when I look at the political statistics, and when I look at the mishaps, and I look at the power of racism in this country, it does not look like Kamala Harris can win. Yet I know what's in my heart. I know what I'm experiencing internally. And that same experience internally is what I am experiencing when it comes to these storms, when it comes to the overt actions of the earth, as well as the overt actions of the people who are the manipulators of the earth. Those things are being brought to the forefront for a reason. There are more people talking about doing something about climate change now than ever before, because we've never experienced a hurricane of this force this far inland, 600 miles from the landfall, and we felt those remnants of it. So I do believe that all of this is for reasons of that nature. I also believe that our acknowledging it and our interactions with each other on the basis of what's happening around us is more spiritual than we have. It has more spirituality in it rather than we have ever experienced in our church experiences, because it is actually recognizing something, and the something that is recognizing is a desire to protect humanity from the adversities of a natural storm, as well as the adversities of the storm in the minds and hearts of men. And that desire to do that is the power, is the energy rather that solidifies the power of change. Does that make sense? I beg your pardon? Okay, thank you. For those
Yeah,
who
it
didn't
makes
hear,
sense.
that makes sense. So I think, thank you, Charles. I think that that's where we are at this moment. And I think that what we're going to begin to see is we're going to be having to do less and less in terms of changes, because the depth of our desire has been acknowledged by the universe, and the embracing of our desires is being reflected in the movements of mankind within the confines of our environment. It's not totally there yet, because when you think about it, when you think about this whole idea of these anti-racist groups, these people who feel like racism should be dealt with or dispensed with, I should say, that should be dispensed with, and we should move beyond racism. But these same people who say that will get in the streets, and they will have tens of thousands of people in the streets protesting against the removal of the right for abortions. And the year that Trump was elected in 16, all the ladies there with the pussy hats, you remember that? All those women, there were 1 million ladies there, and they were they're protesting Trump. But where are they? Where are these same people when we talk about protesting racism? They're never in the streets for that, but yet they say they're against it. So why is it that you don't show up in numbers like that and publicly express your distaste for it? And because they don't do that, the creator, the universe has allowed for different issues to be brought to the forefront. And the issues brings the puzzle together, meaning that there are people who have issues with abortion, there with the removal of the opportunity for an abortion, but there are also people who have issues with not being able to join a union. There are also people who have issues with healthcare, and all these are different segments, but all of them had to be brought together under their individual issue, as opposed to the individual issue being the betterment of humanity. So the selfishness of these individualized people with these individual personal issues, the selfishness of them is being used to bring everyone together for a selfless movement, for a movement that is going to that does involve the betterment of all of humanity, regardless of what your issue is. And if you really look at the issues involved, what you will notice is that no one really pays any attention to any issues unless those issues are brought by white people and white women in particular. They don't care anything about Audra's issue. They don't care anything about the issue of a person of color. But when the issue begins to affect white people, that's when the issues are brought to the forefront. And the universe have allowed that to happen the way it has. And the only one who is able to bring this puzzle to a place of completion is the energy of the African mother. The African motherhood is able to do that. The femininity of that African womb is bringing all of this together for the express purpose of betterment of mankind. And I do believe that what we are experiencing, and we will see it more clearly retrospectively, is that the people like a Dick Cheney and a Bernie Sanders and everything in between will find themselves in a totally different place than they were in prior to the advent of Kamala Harris stepping into this position that that the universe has opened for her, meaning that she has become the face in America of the African femininity. And I do believe that this nurturing attitude and this desire for the uplifting of humanity is going to have an effect on the mindset of everyone who's involved in this coalition. And simply because they have coalesced together, they're going to feed off of each other. And the dominant energy is that of African femininity, and that is the glue that holds that holds humanity together. That is the magnet that pulls everyone together, and that is the righteousness that is necessary in order for us to end up with a society, a worldwide society, a global society that has as its greatest desire the betterment of humanity and the understanding, recognition, and the embracing of humanity as a whole, as opposed to segmenting us based upon the color of our skin or based upon economic circumstances. And I hope that's clear. I'm done. Questions or comments? Does all that make sense?
I want
someone about to say something?
Yes, I was. I actually have a two-part response to today's message. First response is to when Reverend Richard mentioned that the universe will give you what you desire. So a week prior to um, the hurricane affecting my area, I was just feeling drained. My vibrations were low the whole week, and I didn't know why. And I was praying, but I didn't know what I was praying for. And it was mainly affecting me throughout my work, being a nurse case manager and dealing with people's needs. And I just felt like I wasn't being effective, and it was just playing on my mental. So when the hurricane happened, and we were without power, the internet, even when our power was restored, because I work remotely, the internet wasn't restored, so I was still unable to work. So I had a whole week off. And I said prior to the week off, I was like, I'm going to have a whole week off. I said my internet is not going to come back on until Friday because I'm going to have a whole week off. And that's exactly what happened. But throughout that week, I got the rest that I needed. I just feel reset, rejuvenated. I'm ready to go back to work. And I was talking to my daughter who was in college at the time when my power was out, and she was saying we have power and everything was okay. And I was just feeling still the disconnect. I was like, we're all here and with each other. She's missing, that piece is missing. So throughout the day, the phone systems were down, and she had been trying to contact us because their area wasn't hit. But our phones weren't working, so she contacted a family member that lives within her area. And by the time she got to us, she was like, I have to be out of here. They're making us evacuate by 6 o'clock. So, of course, we were panicking, trying to get to her, needing to get gas. But then the missing piece had to come home. But you ride through her area and there's no debris. It didn't hit them, but it was just the universe to me, and that's how I'm interpreting it, the universe providing what I had been praying for and that I needed. So throughout this time, I joke because, she's acting like a toddler. She followed me around everywhere, but we have talked so much. She's evolved so much. We've talked about so many things. We've just had all of this time all week. And it's just what I needed. I got the rest that I needed. And I'm just, it just resonated with me today when you mentioned that the universe gives you what you need and what you desire, even when you don't even know what that is that you need. So that's the first response. Second response is how you mentioned that the motherly role can reverse. So back to my position and my work, I deal with patients all over the country, California, but in particular this section of patients in Kentucky. Had a hard time just, I guess, gaining a positive rapport with these patients. First of all, you can hear my accent. They always want to know, where are you from? And of course, I know that they can tell my ethnicity. So, and most of those patients are Caucasian. So over time, I've been with them, some of them for over a year. Well, I found out with the contract with that group of that network of patients were ending. So I had like a week to wrap things up. Well, it was patients that never gave me the feedback that I was a positive impact. That when I told them, well, this is our last conversation, I had patients crying to me. I had patients like, oh, no, what can we do? Can we? And I'm like, this is a business decision. They were concerned that I wouldn't have a job, And I was like, no, I'm still employed, but it just shows you that you don't know what you need until it's within your fingertips and you can't reach it anymore. But it made me as a nurse feel good, you know, to know that I had been and providing a light in those areas where they needed it. But it's also you can feel defeated when you're not given, I guess, the confirmation throughout your tenure with people that you are a positive impact. But I feel like I did break some barriers there when it comes to how they already stereotype, you know, certain races. But it was just it was surprising to me, you know, it was more patience than I can count that I experienced that with, that I had no clue how impactful I had been on their lives until I was telling them that I will no longer be in their lives. So I just wanted to share that today.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for both examples, and that's what we're talking about. You mentioned a lot of things. You talked about some of the relevant things that you got from our discussions, from our lessons, and how they helped you. And you talked about some of the strengths that you carry and give to other people. That's very important. Appreciate your energy. Appreciate your sharing those things. And I'm glad to hear your family is okay. And what am I missing? Because you said a lot of stuff, but thank you. Thank you very much.
The thing that caught me is that, without even thinking about it, I suppose when you talked about how they felt about you, they thought you were losing a job. That's the empathy in the atmosphere that I'm talking about. They expressed empathy for you, and you didn't even know that they cared. That's the empathy I'm talking about. That's in the macro that they embraced, and the idea of your daughter coming home, that in itself gives you a history, so that when it's not so personal, when it involves other people, trust the universe for that, even though you can't see it. All of us have had personal experiences, as you described, in different ways, with the universe responding without us really knowing what we want, as well as what we desire, and the universe responds to that, so that we will have a history with that truth. So that when we go through periods when it doesn't look like anything is changing, we have that history to hold on to. We know the power of the universe in our lives. We know the power of the feminine energy in our lives. And we also have been given an example of the power of empathy that's already in the macro. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Appreciate that. Ron, I'm done.
Yes, sir. Hey, thank you. Anyone else? I love this. Love what we do. I love the energy. I love the thought-provoking stuff we talk about. Your meditations and you know, as has been mentioned the last couple of days, we're not out of the woods on anything. Not even this present storm that is brewing in the out still in the ocean. We're still dealing with the aftermath of what just happened here, and what's happening across the world, as Bart pointed out, all the things that's still happening. So we are in the midst of this, and meditate and embrace on the part that Pastor opened up to us about being the cosmic mother, being mothers, and feeling that energy and those vibrations. Okay, so this being a good place to pause. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Someone?
I thought you were finished, Ron.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that we are definitely not out. We don't have internet. I'm at Imani's now. I had to come to Imani's in order to get on today. So,
Yeah.
you know, but guess what? As someone said who's carrying the weight of this in her heart, this is simply an inconvenience. It's not a change. It doesn't change my life in terms of my having to restore everything that has been lost, because the home is not lost. Life was not lost in our environment, in my environment rather. This is just an inconvenience. To the others, this is heart wrenching when you go to a place where your house once was, and the people who you left in that house, all of it is gone, and you don't know where it is. That's a totally difference than me having to drive from Union to Spartanburg so I could be on with you guys this morning on Zoom. So I keep that in mind. Yeah, so anyway, and to that heart that is filled with the pain, the heart that's filled with the pain of what was yet being endured. I for one am with you, and all the energy that I can possibly send in your direction is there with you as well. Thank you. Love you
Amen.
guys.
Yeah.
I have a question
Yes.
to ask.
Okay.
My question is there any significance with what Melania Trump said about her viewpoints on abortion? I don't know if you guys have talked about that previously.
I'm not aware, but what did she say?
She was saying basically it's the woman's right, and then they interviewed Trump after that, and he kind of said the same thing. Maybe I'm just paraphrasing. I just thought that was kind of shocking. I'm like, why now? And is there any significance to that, especially with the election coming up? And she's also has a book release as well coming up soon.
Money, 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 money.
Yeah.
I believe it's all about the money, but at the same time, I
Yeah.
also believe it's about striking back at him. She is just as ruthless as he is, but at the same time, she's upset with him because of all the things that has been said and done publicly. She knew about all these things prior to and said nothing and did nothing. And now all of a sudden she's saying it. She's making money from a book. And not only that, the video she did had Freedom playing in the background, which is the theme music for Kamala Harris campaign. So all of this thing is about marketing and greed. And this is how rich folk fight. Marketing, greed, and money.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pastor Ron, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just saying thanks. I'm done.
Real quick before we go, I just saw something on CBS Sunday morning about the war. Tomorrow will be a year, the war in Israel. I didn't know if you guys had already talked about it, but I just was wondering, where are we with that? Is there anything we can do or?
Jackie, we talked about it. And you remember we talked about how Netanyahu was pulling Biden into a war that he's going to regret getting into? That was what's happening now is what we were talking about. Right now, Netanyahu has what he wanted. He's always wanted the U.S. to fight Iran directly because he knows that Israel will have a serious problem fighting Iran on its own. And he has pulled Biden into a position that Biden was too stupid or too afraid to know that he was being pulled into something that he was going to regret. He could have ended this in the beginning by virtue of the refusing to continuously arm them and help them commit genocide in Gaza. America is just as guilty of genocide in Gaza as is Israel. And now here we are. We are involved in a conflict that is not only in Gaza, where genocide is taking place, but now the genocide of what's happening in Lebanon. The very road that Israel told the people in Beirut to evacuate, they bombed it yesterday. So now they can't take that road anymore. So what are they doing? They're trapping them into a kill box. And just like Gaza became a kill box when they told them to evacuate. A kill box is when you push or herd people into a space that is inescapable, and you begin to drop bombs on them or shoot them. That's a kill box. And that's where he pushed the people in Lebanon as well. And he knows that he cannot push Iran into a kill box. And he also knows that it's going to take the US to fight Iran. And that's exactly where Biden is headed right now. And the injustice in that, it was spoken to, alluded to when we talked about the barbarity of the European mindset. You can come into my country and you can kill somebody in my country. You can invade my sovereignty. You can disrespect the sovereignty of my government. But when I respond to that, I become the terrorist and not you. And Israel has disrespected the sovereignty of Lebanon, the sovereignty of Iran, and any other nation that it chose to disrespect the sovereignty of. And Gaza, it did not disrespect the sovereignty of Gaza, because Gaza has never had sovereignty. Gaza has always been the subject to an apartheid government, and that apartheid government being Israel, no different than the Africans in Southern Africa were subjected to under apartheid. I'm done. Jackie, does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for raising that.
Have we done
Yes,
enough to see the universe with the desire for peace and calmness, the desire for balance and harmony? In other words, you got the VP presidential candidate walking a tightrope between being the VP and having to adhere to some extent with the current administration, while on the other hand trying to create enough space to show the difference in what she would do and how she would handle it, because I think that her position would be a little bit different from Biden. So have we seeded enough in the universe so that she continues to have that courage to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, rather than to be caught up in I gotta align myself because I'm the VP, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that's what the young man was alluding to when he said that nobody on that stage can talk about what they're going to do, because the VP does not make policy. The VP follows the policy of the president. And that is the reason that Vance and Trump are trying to push Kamala to make a decision about what's happening in the Middle East, because they know that by being vice president, she would be in a pickle if she were to say something contrary to the policies of the current president. And I do also believe that there was a degree of immaturity in the ranks of the Palestinians who lives in Michigan in particular, and other states, by virtue of pressing her. Excuse me, let me clear my throat, please. By making an attempt to press her to make a decision about that. She said everything she could to let them know that her stance is different, but yet they're still trying to press her to tell them what they're going to do. So, Barbara, when you raise that question, have we seeded it enough? I think we have seeded it enough for her to have the wherewithal to get this done. However, I do believe that we should continue to seed it with an understanding that is absolutely nothing she can do to make any inroads or changes at this moment. Neither can she take the risk of expressing her policy, what her policy would be in regards to the current conflicts. And I do believe also that the Palestinians who have made a decision that they're going to fight this, don't know what they're playing with. They do not know, because If Trump were elected, he would not care if every individual in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran were killed. He does not care one iota. So I think that they are indeed playing with fire, without an understanding or without even caring. I don't know, because that's self-defeating to try to force her to make us take a stance on that, and to say you're not going to vote for her because she doesn't take a stand on that. That is just as ignorant as Donald Trump. So I hope the response is to what you were asking, Bob. But we must continue to seed the macro with everything we can for these purposes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Okay. Don't want to leave anyone out. Any other comments or questions? Again, thoughts and prayers, guys, and remembering who you are. And the Paul's right here. And be prepared. Enjoy the rest of the day, and we'll be prepared to convene again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ron. Are the teachers meeting today?
you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
good question.
Would the teachers please stay on after we get everyone else is off?
Sage,
Have a good
thank
day.
you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Do not end the conversation, please.
I will not, but I take it off a record, right?
Yes.
Okay.